it was
that
you brought this
kid in, and he was a nut.
That's what I was going to say. It's a great neighborhood. You never wanted for company.
So that was
plus right at the end of our street, the baker, the richest guy in Parkville, that owned a bakery shop there. He had a big yard that wasn't being used, and he saw that we wanted to play softball there all the time. So we all got together and worked on it and cleaned it up like we were people that did that kind of work, you know. And he let us use that place, and we used it. And people used to come around and stand around on the sidewalks watching us as we were playing.
That's cool.
That was going great.
Yeah.
Absolutely great. Yeah. That's why when I brought the kids over here, this is one of the things that I was thinking of. They got a place to come. They're not going to be out where they're getting hurt or falling around or riding a bicycle too fast or any of that stuff, see?
Oh, that's awesome.
That's what I was thinking of.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And so to this day, you cannot take those Parkville people out of Parkville.
That's right.
They're all so close.
Yeah.
To this day.
Really?
Well, the guys that I see down at the
VFW.
CFW, was it? FW? Whatever.
VFW.
Over on South Street.
Yep.
On Thursdays, we go over there. There was, ordinarily, when I was going with them in the early part, it must have been maybe 12 or 13 of us. Now it's down to about 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
The others have died off.
Right.
Yeah.
But those are the guys from the neighborhood?
Parkville. The guys from Parkville, they go over there and we shoot the breeze for 2 hours.
That's great.
Yeah.
Just talk about when...
Yeah.
Yep.
And most of them were Catholic. They went to Our Lady Sorrow School.
How old would you say you were about the time when you were playing softball in that park? Were you a teenager or were you younger than that?
It wasn't a park. It was
Someone's
people's yard.
Yard, right.
A big yard that was exposed to the street.
But that was when you were...
I was maybe 10 or 11.
Okay.
10 or 11, somewhere in there. Give or take a year either way.
Okay.
Yeah. And we did that, and we used to keep that place spick and span, you know.
Did somebody talk to that guy to get the area and he said you can use it, or did you all just...
As long as you did this and did that, and you didn't break anything, blah, 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 and that's the way it was.
That's great.
Sure.
So did you remember anything... Was it always... So it was really good so far. Terrific upbringing.
Yeah.
Having a good time. And for school, you went to school around that area? Did you go to the Catholic school or did you go to...
Catholic school, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I was on South Windy Street, which goes up the street. Okay, it goes up the street to Park Street, Big Street.
Okay.
Okay? You have to come up the street. I lived a little bit closer to Park Street than to Capitol Avenue.
Okay.
You come up to Park Street, where all the buses were and the traffic and all this and that. You had to go this way, 1 block, and you had to go up about maybe the length of a football field, and then you take a turn in here, and that's where the school was.
Okay.
Okay? Well, I used to come up, and I go right across the street, and there was a big store there, and I used to go around the back of the store and hop over to people's fence and everything.
Take a shortcut.
That's the way I would get there.
And was it a elementary school or a middle school? How long?
From start to finish.
Okay.
But not high school.
Right.
Not high school.
So that's where you went to elementary school and middle school.
Yeah. There was what's the first grade? What do they call it? Kindergarten. From kindergarten to the 8th grade.
Did you always walk?
Always walked, and there was guys that had to walk further than me, a lot further.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't get any pain from walking.
Right.
But we all went there and did it. And how I got to school was my mother had my older sister, who was in the 8th grade, take me.
Popular.
Then he went to Hartford High.
Okay.
Was it Rick? I don't know where she is. She must be at work.
She's working.
I'll do my best.
3 o'clock.
Okay? Yeah, take it easy. Bye.
Like clockwork.
Is that Rick?
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock.
He calls at 3 every day?
That was Rick.
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
What does he call for?
He wants to talk to Tammy.
Oh, really? So
He says she must be at work. Yeah, I think she is. Well, when you talk to her, will you have her call? In the meantime, Tammy knows he called.
right. So she
So-
calls him around 3 then?
Yeah, then she'll call him.
And how long has he been doing that?
Quite a while.
Yeah.
And it's the same conversation? Is
Yeah.
Tammy there?
Supposedly, yeah. So when we had those grades, the kindergarten and first grade were non-nuns.
Okay.
They were regular women.
Yep.
First 2 years, and all the rest of them were nuns.
Okay.
Every grade after that was young. There was two of each of the other grades.
Did you like school?
I guess I'd say yes. I guess I would say yes. I got into a lot of trouble. See, the trouble was that I was pretty rapid upstairs, you know, and I'd pick up whatever it was that they had, and I would pick it up a lot faster than a lot of the other kids. As soon as I picked it up, I didn't want to mess anymore. I wanted to all of a sudden fool around.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know how many times I used to have to put my hand out like that when the teacher would come over with the ruler
For talking?
on the hand.
Yeah.
I remember the elderly one that was in the 8th grade. She brought me into the principal's office, you know, but he wasn't there that day. She had the ruler with her, and she says, "Okay, put out your hand." So I put out my hand right near the desk, and she comes down, whack, and I moved my hand down a little bit so that it hit the thing, and I went, "Ow!" She says, "Oh, you big baby."
So you were smart. So they would rap you one, huh?
Oh yeah. You never come home and told your mother or father. You go home, you get 3 or 4 more raps, because the nuns were always right.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way it was.
Yeah. So school, you were often just cruising through, kind of under, you know.
I was a rogue.
Mhm.
I would say, yeah, I was a rogue.
Not bad things.
Right, but just you had more time to get.
That's you hit the
task.
nail on the head. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I can see that.
Yep.
So now you're going through elementary school, you're going through middle school, and you
Don't
walk.
forget the schools across the street where a lot of my friends were going to the public school, and we blended in perfectly.
So what would you do? Would you have recess and lunch? Would you be able to go home for lunch, or did you stay at
We
school?
were at home for lunch.
Went home for lunch.
That's how I found my mother.
So
I came home at noontime, I go upstairs, and there she was flaked out on the bed.
how old were you then?
10? I think I was 10.
And your father was at work?
He was at work, and I had to go downstairs and call up the phone, 75576. That was the number for the store he had. I called your dad, Mom's dad. Of course, my sister saw her first, my kid sister. She was a younger, you know, the young ones always went out about 2 or 3 minutes faster than the other kids in school.
Okay.
And she got home, and I'm about 2 or 3 houses from my house when she's coming towards us. And she says, Junie, Mama's dead. And I run through the door, run upstairs, I turn around, look in there, and there she is, flaked out.
Did they know what happened?
Heart attack.
Heart attack.
Oh yeah.
How old was she?
45, I think. 45. Yeah.
So what happened when you called your father?
Well, I think he came out a little while later.
Yeah.
By then he drank so much, he was drinking too many. He had so many automobile accidents that he couldn't drive a car anymore. They wouldn't give him a license.
Really?
Yeah, so I don't know how the hell he got home. He must have got the people next door at the store or whatever. Yeah.
And so if you're saying you live on this street and this is Park and this is Capitol,
Yeah.
where was your dad's? Where was the butcher's? Where was his shop that he worked at? Was it close by your house?
No.
It was far.
No. It was in near Frog Hollow.
Down Harvard
Called
Street.
Frog Hollow.
Downtown.
His house, his store was closer to Trinity College
Okay.
than I was. Not too much closer, you know, but closer.
So it took him a bit to get home then.
It took him a while to get home. He didn't walk. He got a ride.
Or got a ride.
Yeah. Would have taken him maybe 5-10 minutes to get home. Yeah, it was about a mile and a half.
So do you remember?
I used to walk all the way in when I went to work on Saturdays.
Yeah. So now it's just your dad and you, and your siblings, right?
Yeah, when my brother was married, my older sister had just gotten married too.
So they're in their 20s at this time. If you're no, they must have been. If you were 10.
I was 10. My sister was 18. She had just gotten married.
Okay.
And my brother was 22, and he had gotten married when he was 21 or 22. I think Floretta was 3 or 4 years younger or older than him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you had so you lived with your sister, who was younger at the time.
Well, what happened is they taught my sister, my older sister, into, I think she probably was pregnant at the time. I'm not sure. They talked her and my brother-in-law into coming in to the house.
Moving in?
And running the house.
Okay.
And my father would bring in all the goodies and pay for the taxes and things like that. And slowly but surely that all slid off till my father wasn't doing anything except blowing the money away.
Yeah.
Drinking like crazy. So, I don't know, where was I? I forget where I was.
Yeah, no, that was right where you were. So it was just after your mom had passed away.
Yeah.
That your sister and brother-in-law moved in.
Yeah, to
help out.
They were living at his house.
Okay.
And he comes from a family that has 1 boy and like 9 girls.
So they were ready to get out.
Yeah.
Did you like to listen? Did you listen to music or bands or anything like that?
Always liked to listen to it. Yeah.
What kind of stuff did you listen to?
I listened to, like she was saying, all the jazzy stuff.
The jazz bands?
Yeah, all the jazz. Yeah.
Big bands.
The big bands.
Yeah.
So now you're 10, and your sister and your brother-in-law are living with you and your sister, and your dad's at work most of the time.
Yep, he's out working or he's in a tavern somewhere.
In a tavern. So did you see him very often or?
Not too often.
Okay.
Never got a dime from him to speak of.
No.
Especially when my mother died. Anything that I ever got then on was I had to pay for myself.
Okay.
Yeah. Pair of shoes, haircut, whatever.
Yeah. So you're going through and you're still going to the Catholic school for at least the next few years.
Yep.
And then you go to high school.
Then I went to high school.
Where was high school?
High school, Harvard. That was down near where the near the railroad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going to Hartford High School. What do you remember about high school?
What
do you remember about high school? Did you like it?
remember about high school was I enjoyed it. I enjoyed high school. I just liked it. Anything that I had to do, I picked up pretty quickly. Not that I'm saying, let's say I'm a smart guy or anything like that, but
right.
I don't think that the stuff that you had to learn back in those days was as hard to pick up as it is today.
Okay.
Today, I think the kids have it a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
But I used to pick things up just like that. The only thing that I didn't pick up that good was English.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do that good in English.
Okay.
Except the very first year, my last mark, I got an A. And I didn't think I got the A in it. I thought it was, I got all A's, I thought I had 1 B. So there was 4. And I had an A in math.
Science.
A in what?
Science.
Science, history.
History.
Science, history.
Science.
History.
Then there was English.
English. And I forget what the other one was. Whatever it was. But I thought, what's the language?
Oh, Spanish, French,
Latin, French.
Latin. And I get an A at every Latin, all the time. And the Latin teacher, she was a frisky looking thing, And I thought I was getting along with her just like that. And don't you know, my grade point was like 89 or something like that. And the last one, she gave me a B. And I got the A in English. How the hell I ever got that, I'll never know. I went to see my English teacher. Maybe what was it, about 10 or 20 years ago or 30 years ago. I used to go visiting all the time in the last 30 years. She lived in Wethersfield with her daughter. So I rang the bell. I found out what her name. I rang the bell, and this elderly looking woman came in, and I said, "Gee, I was looking for, I can't think of her name, so and so." She says, "Oh, you're talking about my mother." And I was almost thrown back, you know. I said, "Well, yeah, yeah." So she brings me in the other room, and she sees me, you know. She says, "Oh, how are you doing?" She says, "I can't remember your name to me, you know." And I said, "So, Tom Cunningham." "Oh, yeah, yeah, I remember you." I says, "You know, you're the only one that ever gave me a demerit." She says, "Why did you have to say that?" So we sat and we talked for almost an hour. You know,
Tell him about when you went to visit the nun and she recognized you.
oh, that was in the convent.
Mm.
In the convent. This is maybe about 10 years ago or so.
Yep.
In the convent, it's hard to describe it, but you walk in there and right away you think you're in no man's land. There's no man, you can't hear anything. You can't even hear a cough. You can't hear, if someone had pneumonia, you wouldn't know it because you can't hear a word. I mean, you're walking through these old chambers, nothing, you know. Finally, I'm going down the hallway to the elevator thing, and I look in and I had a look again, and it was a teacher that was in the 6th grade when my mother died. I was in the 6th grade when my mother died. Sister Ladislaw. I'm going down the thing. So I walk over to the door and I get this, and I'm standing in the doorway. And she was about where the front room door is. In other words, like almost two rooms away.
Right.
But it was one single room, you know, and there was 2 desks in there. She was in the back one. And I'm standing there, and she looks up, and she says, "Tommy Cunningham." My sister. I says, "You haven't seen me in 60 years. How did you remember?" She says, "You always remember the bad ones." Can you imagine her saying that?
Oh my God.
You always remember the bad ones. Wow. Oh, I used to take a slingshot and slap it against the door with a
little pebble?
Pebble. Boing! It would react throughout the whole.
In 6th grade?
Something like that. Yeah, that was bad.
I tamed him.
Yeah.
I was bad. Where were we?
No, that's just where we were.
Oh,
That's perfect.
oh, okay.
So you're in high school,
Yeah.
and you're going to Hartford High.
Yeah.
Were you in any groups or bands or
No,
sports
no.
teams or?
Nothing that I didn't get into anything in school that I could think of. There was one club that I got into, but I can't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been like something had to do with one of my subjects, but I'm not sure what it was.
So what would you do after school? You would go to work? Work.
Yeah, I used to go to work. And when I reached 16, going into my last year, I was able to get, instead of six times for classes, I was able to get 5. So that I was able to leave class the last one. I'd run all the way down Park Street, you know, all the way to get in there, and I used to work. I used to work, and then on Tuesday and Wednesday, sometimes both days, but every week, at least one of the days, I would go over from the meat market where I worked, the meat section. I'd go over to where they have the truck come in, delivering all the stuff that we're going to be putting on the shelves and stuff. And I would go over there after 6 o'clock when I was through doing it, and the store closed.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that worked over there, of course, were there, and then I would work there. When I was in my last year in high school, I used to go to high school, I used to work 41 hours a week.
So you'd get out of high school and you'd work until late at like 8 o'clock or so? Probably 6 hours, 7 hours a day?
Easy, right up until midnight. taking the stuff in off the trucks and then moving it around inside.
In the store,
Yeah.
and then you'd go home and you'd go to
And
bed.
I'd walk all the way home. It was about a mile and a half.
Then you go to school.
Go to bed, and the next morning I'm off to school. Yeah.
What did you think about that? How was it? Were you?
Well, it was tough, but I sort of kind of just got used to it. That's all. I mean, it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
I was always working. 4 houses up from me was the flower shop, Warren's Flower Shop. I worked there on every single holiday. Every single holiday I worked there. When I was in grammar school, when I worked there, I used to fix up the flowers things with moss. I used to come and iron things, and you put the moss in, and you'd have a roll like a, whatever you call it, with string on it, and you tie it tight, and then you put in another package and turn it around a little bit further until you got all the way around, and then it was set. And you'd put it off to the side. He used to pay me like a nickel for that one and a dime for the other kinds that were a little bit bigger. And I'd do about 3 or 4 a day when I'd go in. So he'd have them all ready when they'd get telephone calls when there were wakes. People had passed away. Oh yeah, so work, I've always worked all my life.
Yeah.
That's why I quit when I was 55.
Yeah.
I worked enough.
Yeah.
I really did. Yeah.
And
Now I'm working more than ever.
Did you take care of your sister?
Huh?
Because your sister was younger.
I would take care of my little sister. Yeah, I would take care of my little sister. See, I had to do a lot of things in the house that nobody else was doing.
Right.
I used to have to take care of the furnace. You know, nothing hurt me worse than that. Just before I started working at the Stop and Shop on Park Street, lots of times when I'd fix the fire, when I'd come home, I want to go out and play. Well, my older sister, would meet me at the door. She said, "June, I forgot to turn the thing on this one, like you told me." I would fix the fire in the morning.
Right.
It's a special way of doing it. You gotta shake it, you know, and then you gotta know enough when to stop because you don't want to have good coals that are burning down on the bottom. They're no good down there. They're dead. They're done for. So you'd have to be watching it all the time. And then I would close it. Then I would you bring in like 1 or 2 small shovelfuls that you spread around, and then let them gather.
Yep.
Then I'd go upstairs, and I'd have my lunch, or I'd have my breakfast, and then I'd have to watch it and go downstairs. And once I was upstairs for the 10 to 20 minutes, whatever it was, and those coals had ignited. Now it's time for me to put in some more coal for it to go for the rest of the day.
Right.
But you have to close it off. You got to close off the upper damper, and so forth. Otherwise, it just sucks it right out, and it's like a air on the other side of the fire, making it dry out.
Yep. Yep.
So I would tell her, especially sometimes I could stick around. I would still have enough time to be able to do it myself.
Yep.
Because I knew 50% of the time I come home, she would forget to have done that. She had just had a baby too, you know. She had a baby to take care of.
Right.
And I used to take care of the baby at night when they'd go out and go to the movies or something. I used to have to take care of the baby at night, change their diapers and everything else. And if they didn't come home early, because instead of going to the movies, they went out to play cards, I'd have to lay in their bed and put my foot up and put it on the side of the crib. After I put the bottle in their mouth, I used to have to put the bottle in and warm it in the stove, and I'd be shaking and say, "I know you're laughing, and you think I'm exaggerating. I can't tell you how all the things that I had to do that you wouldn't believe." You say, "No, you can't. He's really pulling my leg when he's telling me he's doing this." That's the way I look back at it when I think about it. I say, "Gee, I say nobody's going to believe me.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to believe me." Yeah.
And this is when you're a teenager.
Yeah. I was maybe 11 or 12. Yeah.
So you had it, and
my brother-in-law, I was so mad at him because he wouldn't do anything around the house.
Really?
It was almost as if he had that embedded on him, you know. I'm not doing anything around this place.
Yep.
You know.
Well, there's certainly people like that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, he was a good guy. He
right.
and I got along pretty good.
But even good people, you can sometimes wish they would do more. You know, Some people just don't have the
Oh yeah,
the
I didn't mind doing
mindset.
it if I didn't have something else.
But you
that
had
was on
everything
my
else to
mind.
do.
Yeah,
You had a lot to do.
Yeah, if I didn't have, I didn't mind. It didn't bother me. Lots of times the guys used to come down to the house, to my house, after they'd come home from school. They'd come down to my house waiting for me.
Yeah.
Wondering how long is it going to be? Are you going to be able to play or blah blah whatever? All right, that's enough of that.
No, that's all right. So after high school, where did you want to go to college?
I wanted to go to college, but
But you had to-
I didn't have a nickel.
Yeah.
I didn't have a nickel. Like I say, from the day my mother died, I never got a nickel from my father. Never. That's from 10 years of age up.
How long did he live after your mother passed away?
He died in
50.
1950.
Okay.
Yeah. So that means he was 52. 52. He was born in 91. He was born in 92.
Were you in your 20s when he
I
passed?
was 24. Yeah, just finished college. Just finished.
He graduated from college, his father died, and we got married all in the same year.
Yeah. And I had several different appointments, possibilities for jobs from college. And there was only one that really stood out, and I waited, but by the time it got to be like September or October, I said, that's it. I said, I'm going to take any job that comes along. I looked in the paper, said the Underwood. I said, that's where I'm going. Because she had to come out every night and put up that ladder or to
The
the bed,
bed.
in the living room, And I said, I want to get married. What the heck? We're going to get married. The sooner the better.
Yep.
So I said, I got to get a job.
And when
I
you
went out and the guy bought it, and he was a good friend. He became a very good friend of mine. He said, Tom, you don't belong here. Says,
the work was underneath you?
Yeah. I said, I know, but I got it. I told him just what I just got through saying a moment ago with you. I got to get started, my wife, I want to get married, blah, 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 blah.
So what was the job?
Oh, that was where I got a break. That's where I got a break. The job that was at the end of the line. And the guy that had the job, he got the job because he was in with the big shots there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good job, okay? And I did well at it, and not only that, there was a lot of overtime there. That's where I was getting paid for 82 hours a week work. I didn't work 82 hours. I worked about 60. I worked 10
Time and a half?
10 hours a day, 10 days, 5 days, and Saturday was the only 8-hour day. All the rest of
What were you doing? What was the work?
I just had to check out the typewriters when they come up. I was the last one to look at them, clean them up, check them all out, make sure that everything was right. They had the right forms on it. Sometimes you have to take off a couple of the pedals because they were, and we had to clean them, and everything else. And then I would bring them over to the guy that was behind me, who was the inspector that didn't work he worked like for the government.
Okay.
And then what happened was, because of my background, the guy, there was three bosses in there. There was 2 bosses on the line, one at the back of the line, one in the front of the line, and the other boss took care of the other side, which was the side that fed the big line.
Yep.
The women were working there. There was only maybe half a dozen men, and there was maybe about 40 women.
Building typewriters?
No, they were doing different jobs of setting things up. They would put different forms of things together, which you then take and put into the machine.
Okay.
So the boss pulled me aside and he says, what's his name doesn't like to do is to work anymore over there with the women and all that. He says, you want it? So I got that job.
Which is higher?
Higher, okay? And the girls were great, absolutely great. Remember we used to bring presents home. They would bring presents when I said my kid's birthday today or tomorrow. They would bring in stuff. They'd go out at noontime and they would bring in stuff.
Oh, wow.
Maybe they were just trying to kiss my butt, I don't know. But nevertheless, they did it and they did the job. Plus, I did a great job, if you don't mind me saying so,
Don't
of taking care of them,
making them
Okay.
making them happy.
making them happy. I kept it. I made sure I'd go around and whenever anything would happen, because otherwise they would rather just as soon take time off. But they got less money. They only got about 90% or 80% or something. So I'd go over there, and if I saw there was a problem with something, I'd get a file or a hammer or whatever it was, and I'd fix the thing, and I'd report it, but I'd fix the thing so that they would continue their regular job, they wouldn't lose any money,
Hmm.
and wherever it was being done wrong was being fixed right then and there.
So they appreciated
They
that.
always appreciated that. Everything went perfect. Had no problem.
Smart business.
Yep.
From high school to college, there was a little thing in the middle called a war.
I was just gonna try to get back because when you went to Trinity College,
Yeah.
which I'm sure as it is now is an expensive school. It's a very,
Very much.
well-known school.
Very much. Yeah.
So for someone who doesn't have a nickel, you had to figure out a way to get to Trinity College.
Just scraped the line at the last. If I had to buy another book, I wouldn't have the money for it.
So where did you end up right after high school? You had to join the service?
No, I was before the service.
No, but
After high school, you joined the service.
Oh, you
After
mean after
high
high
school,
school. I'm
right.
sorry.
That's
I thought
okay.
I thought
Yep.
we were talking about after.
so after high school,
After high school,
because since you didn't have the money for
I
college,
was so young. I was only 17. I just turned 17, so I had another year.
uh-huh.
So I didn't go into service right away. I didn't get into service till almost a year later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you worked until you went to the service,
I worked right on through. Yeah.
and then what did the service? Did you want to go to the service, or did you just think
I didn't really want to. I don't know whether anybody really wants to. I mean, a few people probably do, but
Right.
I didn't really want to. But I mean, I had to.
Yep.
We just had to.
So what did you join? What did you
I
do?
joined the Navy.
Navy.
Navy, yeah.
So you went and you signed up,
I signed up,
and where did they send you?
and they sent me the first place. Where the heck did they go? I went to some place in New York. What's that place in the middle of New York, state of New York? Well, they have terrific storms up there. I remember we were
Buffalo?
No, it's right in the middle of it.
Okay, that's too far north. Albany?
No. It's not that big a known name. It's known, but not that big. But anyway, I was there for 12 months.
Okay.
12 weeks. 12 weeks, and that was in the early part of summer that year. And I came home from for the. Then when you go back, you line up. Everybody lines up, and then they go along and they tap you. Somebody goes along and they tap you. If they tap you, that means you can
Great Lakes.
Great Lakes? No, that was out near Chicago.
Oh.
If they tap you,
They tap. If they tap you, that means you're going to whatever you've learned and so forth, and whatever you've put down. They think that you could do well in that, so they put me down and they said you're going to Tennessee, Memphis.
Mhm.
I went to Memphis and I learned the codes,
okay.
all the codes. And I was going to be put on planes, diving bombers, not the big bombers, but the
Yep.
diving bombers. And I would be down at the bottom, and I didn't like that so good. The more I thought about it. And then I really made up my mind when the very last time they had a get together of all the guys, and they said that they told us whatever happened there that you can say whatever you want. So one guy got up and he says, "Well, what's the casualty rates between at war or when you're in training with new pilots and new
Mhm.
gunners and new radio man and this and that? It's about the same."
Really?
Yeah. And you heard me say this before. I said, "Gee, this doesn't sound so good for me." And I had gone up a couple of times with some of these guys. And I remember one time going over the swamps down in Florida, and I think I could have stuck my foot out like that and hit the water that we were down that way. Yeah.
In the plane?
Yeah, and then the guy was probably just fooling around. I said, I don't know whether I like that or not. So I chose to get out. Now I could be sent right over to the Philippines, be sent right at the war. But I was lucky. I was very lucky.
Is this
to
the- is
settle
the-
down.
Is this the Korean War?
No.
World War II?
World War II, yeah.
Right. That's why. Okay. World War II. Okay. So they since you had switched out of that what you were doing, that they could have sent you over there unless you found.
Yeah, you're going to like X. What do they call it? Project X or something like that. Or I can't mention it.
Yeah. So what did you do after you got out of that?
Oh God, I can't remember all the different things.
They sent you to. This is. Didn't you start bouncing around a little bit, or did
I
you?
bounced around a little bit. I ended up in South Carolina, taking care of the typewriter and the
Code?
code. Yeah, code. There, yeah.
Morse code?
Mm.
Okay.
And I had already sent away to my sister to send me down my golf clubs. Okay? It was in the spring. And I said, Freddie, get it all together, send it down. And the day that the guy brought it, the mailman came in and he's got the thing. And I said, oh, you brought the clubs today. That very day, I got a report that I had to report back to New York because they were going to send me to Chicago.
When did you go to Florida?
Florida was right after Tennessee. Yeah.
So after Florida, so you're in South Carolina, you're ready to golf,
Yeah.
and you're going back north.
You know how they got me from New York to
Chicago.
South Carolina?
Okay.
I got into a plane. I used to sleep on the plane. I lay down on the floor. And came all the way out to Chicago, then came down to St. Louis, then went all the way down to New Orleans, and then cut across to Alabama, and back up to
South Carolina.
That's where I got off the plane.
That was the best way they could figure it out.
Well, you just went with it. The plane belonged to that group that I was with.
Okay.
See, that's in doing the work that they were doing, and that's the way. If it had been going the other way, I would have gone the other way, right, you know. But they happened to be going this way, and then when I got there, oh no, that was when I was going back to New York. But they were in such a hurry to get myself. When I got to New York, he said, "Where do you live?" I said, "I live in Connecticut." He says, "Take the weekend off." So the guy wrote me a pass, and I went home for the weekend. Crazy.
And then from there, you went to Chicago.
There I went to Chicago, yeah.
How long were you in Chicago?
Chicago, I was in Chicago for maybe about 2 months.
Okay.
And from there they sent me down to St. Louis.
Okay.
I was in St. Louis, and that's where I had charge of one of the, what do you call it, where you eat for the
Mess
big,
hall?
The big mess hall, but for the big shots. For
Oh.
the big shot. I'm the one that decided to put some of the bowls, small bowl, on every one of the tables, and put a couple of quarters in them and everything else. Before you know, these guys were coming in, and they saw that, bing, they start throwing. So we used to pick up about $20, $25 before we were through.
Good idea.
And the place I had to take care of was probably about 2/3 of the size of this first floor.
Okay.
So that means they only had room for maybe about 40 guys.
Yep.
But we always treated them good. Oh, whatever they wanted, they'd get it just like that. You know, at the end, that plate would fill up. This one would fill up. That would fill up. Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Then
So
we used to have to clean it every weekend.
clean
They clean out all the bugs that would get in there.
Yeah.
That thing was terrible. Any of the guys that sat out in the place and eat some of that stuff, they were so we used to clean up on weekends. They wouldn't eat again. Don't you spread that around?
No. So this is in St. Louis,
Yeah,
and then
that's where I got discharged from,
okay.
and it was over. And me and an Irish guy, he was going to Notre Dame, I think. He says, Tom, what do you say we hitchhike home? You know, everybody's in the same mood. You know, on the street you see a sailor or a soldier or whatever, you know, and stop the car right away and give him a ride, you know?
Yep.
So I said, sure. So I had my big satchel with everything on it, you know, and he had his, and we went out, picked up a car right away, and where do you think he left us off? In, what I'm trying to say, he lived in, geez, I can't think.
That's all right, but he picked you up in St. Louis.
Except saying was we went about, it's a big name city too.
Is it out
Begins with a C. Not
Chattanooga?
Cleveland.
Cleveland?
Cleveland, that's close to it, yeah, Cleveland.
Okay.
And that's where he lived. So he got off. So I'm walking around by myself, and I'm saying to myself, what the hell, I got 2/3 of the way home already. Why, and now I'm all by myself. I'm only a little guy. And I might have had $50 or $60 in my pocket, which meant something in those days. So I says, I'll take the train. So I got a train ticket to go home.
That's great. So the train from that area all the way to Connecticut?
Yep.
To New Haven?
Yep, right to New York and then up to Hartford.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got to Hartford and you were done, and
And the following Monday, I started school at
Trinity.
Trinity.
because they said
Because I was let go in December, in August. It was like the last day of August. So
Right.
by the time I got home, the very next Monday, I had to go to school, start school.
so it already had been set up.
My brother, I called him early on when I knew I was getting out, and he got the papers. He went to Hartford High School to get all the paperwork.
Okay.
Then he brought it to Trinity, so that it was all set for me when I got home.
So and you were able to go there because you were in the military?
In the military, and they were going to pay for it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
They have what they call the GI Bill,
GI Bill, yeah, that's what that was.
Yep.
GI Bill.
and it paid for their education.
Yeah.
So it worked out.
Oh, perfect.
You never had to go out,
Never.
and you
Never.
just you wanted to go. Did you know what you wanted to go to college for?
Oh, yeah.
What'd you go for?
Huh?
Math.
Math.
Math, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't add 2 and 2.
Plus languages, I took a year of German.
Yep.
Took a year of French. I already had some French from high school. The toughest I had was the first 2 years.
Yeah.
I was green, you know, and they didn't fool around up there. I mean, you either had to know what you're doing or not. So I had to work. I used to sleep. I used to go to sleep maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30, you know, and I'd go up around 9 or 10. It was tough. The first couple of years were very tough.
Did you live on campus?
No, I lived at my brother's
You
house.
lived at your brother's house.
Oh, he lived on, his house was on side, well, it was my father's house originally.
Mm-hmm.
He lived on Lincoln Street, and you just had to walk up a little ways, you got to Broad, and you walk, on Broad you go like 3 blocks and you got on the street that brings you right up to Trinity.
Okay.
When I walked, it would probably take me 10, 15 minutes to get to school.
And then he met me.
And that was
I heard
short-
I got a bicycle. I bought a bicycle.
So you could ride to work and to school and.
School, the whole works, yeah. Then when I left, when I finished, I gave it to my nephew. My nephew, he went to Trinity.
Okay.
Only he did real good at Trinity. And then he died at 28.
Right. Robert.
Robert. Yeah.
So you met this one.
Then I got stuck with. I got stuck. Yeah.
And she came down to see you, and
I used to bring her to school to work from the beach, from the lake. We would
okay.
stay on the lake for the weekend, you know, the mother and father and her and I. I think Annie might have been down there sometime, wasn't she? Yeah. And then on Monday morning, she worked at the
Children's Hospital.
Children's Hospital.
Newington.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's
It's still up there now, but it's a different thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd drop her off there. And then,
So you had a car?
I had a car. Oh, I had
A nice car?
a car. I bought it for $100.
Is that a good deal?
And then I sold it for 50 when I was through with it.
We were going to the lake once and going around the corner. The battery fell out of the
Battery
car.
fell out.
We went to New York and it had a rumble seat.
Oh yeah.
And we smoked them. And the side, the insulation was straw, I guess.
Fuzzy.
Yeah.
And the spark got into there. So we had to stop and put the fire out.
The car was on fire.
Well, we went to the ball game down in New York, and it was Fran Reynolds. He used to be the chief of police in West Ark. He and I were pretty good buddies, and he was married to Shirley, who was a good friend of Betty's from where? From the first.
From Hilliard.
From Hilliard, from college.
Okay.
See, okay, so that we knew. So in the front, so when we finished the ball game, we're coming home, we're getting ready to come home, and I said, now how you want to do this? So I says, you want to stay in the back? You know, it's kind of cold. It was like November, or no, not November, it was like, February, March, April,
Maybe September, October?
July, August, September, like September,
Mhm.
September. So at night, it's up. If you're in the back seat, you know, in a rumble seat, and with the seat back, you're exposed to the air and everything, you know.
Are there seats before the rumble seats? Is it like the front seat and then the back seat and then the rumble seat?
Oh, no. The rumble seat is out. It's
That's
outside
it.
the car. We were inside the car. She and I were inside the coupe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It would be where the trunk is. And if you lifted the hood of the trunk, there would be a seat there.
So they could have sat in front, behind you though. They could have sat. In
Oh no.
No,
No,
it was-
there wasn't room for that.
Okay.
So I said, "You sure you want to see?" Oh yeah. And of course they were in love, you know. That creates a little heat.
That'll do it.
So they were there, and we're driving along, and getting cooler and cooler, you know. So finally, you're friend Reynolds knocking out there. He says, it's time for her to go in the front. He says, and you can put me in here and put the top down. So that's what we did. We stopped alongside the road. She came and sat in front, and he was in the back with the thing down. And that's where all the smoke and everything, right? And when we got to Hartford, he almost was dead.
Things you do for love.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Oh my God Almighty! I don't know if we're getting anywhere here.
No, this is perfect.
You sure?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean you. Then after you got married, then you started a family.
Yeah.
And what do you remember? Because I know that Grandma was at home with the kids, and she was raising them while you were at work.
Yeah.
So what was your perspective of when you got home? You know, what was that like? Did you come home after work and
We'd all sit down at the table.
have dinner?
About 6 o'clock.
Mhm.
And, you know, normal.
Yep.
And we'd shoot the breeze. We'd all be talking, yakety-yakking, you know, whatever.
Asking the kid, finding out about the days and all that?
Yeah.
And you go on the vacations up to...
Well, let me tell you something, a real secret. I don't know, I might even have told you this before. When I was working in the Stop and Shop, I had worked there for like 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years. But it was different people that came to work there. Well, finally, one guy came to work. He was about 24, 26, something like that. A good fella. And I was about the only guy that he put up with or paid attention to. Forget put up, because he was a nice guy. But he was very quiet, but he got along good with me. And what he did is he had come from Canada, and he was married. And he told me this, and here I am, like 16 years old probably. He's telling me they had one child, and the child was born. About a year or so after they got married. He says, and we did that purposely because my wife was getting a lot of steam from the people around her saying, "Oh, they get married because they had to get married,"
Mhm.
you know, that kind of stuff. So I was thinking the same thing when we got married. We weren't going to have a baby right away. Because if they did, they said, that's the reason why they, you know.
Yep.
So I told her, I says, it'll be a while. Okay? So that's why we waited, what, 3 months? 2 or 3 months? Something
2 months.
2 months.
Right.
So, but at least that thought in anybody's mind was wiped out.
Right.
Nobody could do that. And that's a true story.
Because then people would do the subtraction, and if you had a baby 7 months after you were married, they'd say,
yeah, sure.
Because people had those notions,
Right. Gee, they had to get married.
and probably even back in that time, it was even more taboo to. You don't have a kid until you're married.
Very good. Yes.
So do you know was that often or not often, but sometimes you know people who were getting married because they were pregnant?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What would you say? That's hard to now we have dessert, so we're grateful for this. What do you think? You've been through it all. What are you looking back saying? I'm grateful for how everything. What do you think was the best, or what have you taken away from everything?
Well, to be honest with you, one of the things is kind of simple. I think I'm very, very lucky that the Lord gave me the perseverance to go on through what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
The saying that is almost like, patting myself on the back, and I don't mean to say it that way.
Right.
But I mean, I really think that there was a lot of things that I went through that, geez, I would have rather have stamped it out, that I wouldn't have to do it, I wouldn't have to try this, and I made it through. I got through. And I got through pretty well, pretty well on top of that. So that I think that I almost was like singled out by God. We'll let this guy go along pretty good, for a little twerp, we'll let him figure it out for himself. He's doing good.
Was there somebody you think? Because obviously, you had to do, all the things you had to do. You had to find it somewhere to do it. To have the means and the perseverance. Is there anyone, a sibling or a relative or a friend, is there anyone that you can think of that you thought maybe helped inspire you?
Many.
Or pushed or helped you get to that point?
Many. Jim Horn, the flower shop. He kept my spirit up all the time. Here's a guy that I don't want to go through it.
No, that's all right.
It would take too long to go through talking about him. Here's a guy that was absolutely a true blue father, if there ever was one. And I said, that's the way I want to be. I want to be a father, and have children. If you don't have children, no sense in getting married.
Yeah.
That's the way I felt. So I love the children, and I'm glad they got. And as soon as we got the children, the whole world changed. The world changed. And I loved the kids. I just loved the kids all the time. The only one that I felt sorry for was for Tammy. She had a lot of troubles, a lot of tough times, and that made me feel kind of bad. But otherwise, everything was perfect. Everything came out perfect. And of course, I had an awful lot to match it up against, which was tough, what I was going through. And now they're not going through it. They don't have to go through it.
Thank you.
That's what made me feel good. But there was a lot of guys like him. I can't even think of all the people. There's ever so many. Brother Anthony was a great guy in the church. He was always. I think he wanted me to become a priest. And I wasn't going to be doing that. But there was an awful lot of people that I was amazed at. That they were as good as they were. Yeah. And they knew how to handle that. And I'm far from that. But I picked up a little bit of it from them. Right. But the Jim I remember.
He was a big one.
Oh, he was a big one, yeah. And the thing of it is, he had 3 boys. 2 girls. And I don't think he got a chance to. As a matter of fact, he used to take me along as if I was one of his sons. He'd take me to ball games and
Really?
all different kinds of things like that. Oh yeah.
So just being lucky enough to have people that you worked with or met
Yeah,
that were helpful, and
exactly.
then the last part then, what do you think that because you've gotten that from the people around you growing up, what do you think was your biggest ideal or thing that you wanted to give value to your kids to say, whatever you do or whatever's going on, make sure you are doing what or having what?
Well, I don't know. Maybe don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up. As bad as things are, what's the old saying? As bad as things are, they could be worse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and this too shall pass. Whatever, if something's bad, it comes along. Why does it always happen to me? Well, it doesn't always happen to just you. It happens to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah.
So that's all. One of the big things I got problem with right now, I'll mention. There's a couple people who live up the street here that they were at this thing that I went to last fall.
Yep.
About Christ. And the main thing is that I'm looking at some people that are relatively smart people, and I say they can believe this is as it is, and that there is another world coming, or whatever it is. There's a life after this. And there's 2 things that bother me about that. Number one, it would seem to me that there's an awful lot of people on this earth that probably don't even know what that's all about. That just passes them by. It never reaches them and just passes them by. Are they going to go to heaven too? Are they going to be going to heaven? So that bothers me. The other thing is the tsunami that went into Japan here about a year or 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was just getting over that when bingo, this guy out in Carolina, is it, or Colorado?
Colorado.
Does what he does. I mean, that's what bugs me. You know what I mean? It bugs me. How much holy do you want to believe? And if you want to believe in a good God, what makes you think that that's a good God who allows that guy to do something like that? You know?
Yeah.
So there's ever so many question marks that automatically come into your head.
Always, right?
Yeah.
No matter what you learn, no matter what you go through, you always have to say, why is this happening?
Did perfectly. Why?
Yeah. So it's kind of a lifelong idea of figuring out that maybe you never do figure it out.
Now remember, when I was born, where I lived, I was a Catholic, but I was a Catholic that was emerged in Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Catholic school. I lived right next door to the church itself. I was an altar boy. They had the La Salette place there where they were teaching guys to become priests.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I have all that background, And I say to myself, why? This wonderful Lord that is good and loves everybody, why does he let a schlook like that get a couple of guns and go in and kill people that have nothing to do with him whatsoever?
Mm-hmm.
Father Furlong said, "We'll never know until we get there."
Yeah, maybe that's it.
That's a good answer.
Because we were asking him something about, I know a friend of his had died, his wife had died, And the little kid said, "Why does this happen?" And he said, "We'll never know until we get there."
Maybe maybe it's also just that.
I also asked him what Lot's, Lot in the Bible,
Yeah.
what his wife, because she turned and he turned to salt. And we asked him, what was Lot's wife's name? He said, Mrs. Lot. Oh, he was wild.
Yeah, but
Well, he was a good sport anyway.
Oh, yeah. The
Well-
best.
well, if you believe in heaven too, or if you believe in something bigger, I guess it's almost to say we're almost fools to think that we could even wrap our heads around it.
Correct. That's a good way of saying it.
You know,
too.
because whatever we think we know,
We don't.
you don't. So it's maybe that's the truth of saying you're not going to know till you get there. You trust in what's happening, but you have to remind yourself that you're just one person in this whole universe. So to try to push yourself to understand it all it's way bigger than that. Maybe whatever all of that you went through when you were growing up, you could have said that to yourself too, to say, what is a God or whoever is creating this to have a kid come home and find their mother, to have a kid have to work all the time and never get to play and not have a life. But look how it ended up. You had a family that you raised that is incredible, and Ryan was telling Tammy when they were going home from the picnic, his girlfriend Jill was saying, "Your family is so fun. Your family is so fun.
Oh, no.
They're so great." And that.
But hers isn't.
Yeah, people don't always say that about their family. So, maybe whatever is happening in the world, it's for a reason. Even when terrible things happen,
There's a reason.
terrible things always bring out the good in people. And without terrible things, there would be no good things. Because what's a good thing unless it's contrasted against a terrible thing? So, you hope it doesn't ever happen, but
What you're saying now makes me remember that as far as my mother is concerned, I was sad when she passed away. But as I look back at it, I more and more tell myself it was the best thing that ever happened to her.
yeah,
She went through at least 5 years that I can remember and think of and spot different things that happened that were going to get even worse as she went along. Were going to get even worse as they,
Yeah.
The following year, she was going to have even something worse than what she had had the previous 3 or 4 or 5 years, and so on, until she finally would go. So it was best that she went the way she did.
So she didn't have to go through that. Yeah, right. No, it's true.
Is this still on?
Yeah, I can turn it off because we're finished with our interview now.